It is an amazing time in American history, really world history that we're living, and commentary that I think was very overlooked by the President of the United States I want to talk about today. It was absolutely bone-chilling what the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, said specifically. Talking about involuntary confinement, that's a quote, involuntary confinement of said individuals that the state, this is like Minority Report, Hollywood movie, they're going to black bag you, throw you into a van and kill you. Okay, this is pre-crime type stuff. The president said that they would consider involuntary confinement.
We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
In the near future, for those that they think pose a red flag based on their thoughts, based on their potentially political thinking or their political narrative. What Trump said yesterday, his speech, was some of the most dangerous words that I've ever seen in the decade that I've been here at AMTV. What does he mean and what is this? It means that they'll be combing through the internet in a very material way. It means that if you don't agree with the politics of the state, they could come for you. Okay, we talked about this years ago with the NDAA, the, National Defense Authorization Act, instituted by Obama, and I think there's even a bigger history if we go back to some previous presidents, where basically if they deem you a terrorist, they black bag you, etc., and you're gone forever, you disappear. This is what happened in Nazi Germany. This is what the Gestapo did. They would take out their political opposition and their enemies, and you would just never hear, what happened to Bob? I don't know. We've never heard from him again. This is soft disclosure of the deep state, where they tell you exactly what's coming, and they illustrate with very choice words the concentration camps, some people call them FEMA camps, that they have planned and what is coming to a divided country currently engaged in a civil war.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled.
That's the message from these protesters in Muzaffarabad in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. A few hundred gathered to voice their anger against the Indian government's decision to abolish its special status of Kashmir, the Himalayan region disputed with Pakistan.
I appeal to the United Nations to resolve this issue immediately. Otherwise, we will go there to win freedom for our brothers. I appeal to the United Nations. I appeal to the United Nations.
You know, a lot of people have speculated that these cell phone towers, these Gwen towers, these ELF towers, these towers that are absolutely everywhere. And I mean everywhere. They're disguised as trees, they're strapped onto smokestacks, they're all over every single solitary church. And again, they are everywhere. If these are cell phone towers, then why are there so many in a row? Why is it that if you triangulate yourself between cell phone towers, your service doesn't improve? Because these aren't exactly what people think they are whatsoever at all. Now let me ask you, if we have all these satellites, I mean, what's the current count? 25, 27,000 according to NASA, according to the powers that be. We have satellites absolutely everywhere. Why is it that none of these dishes, none of these transceivers are pointing up? They're all pointing out. All of them. Everywhere. That's a fact. Why is it that everyone had to switch from their antenna televisions to the cable boxes, and then why was there a forced swap over to digital? You see what I'm saying? It's because these are weapons.
Listen to me. Don't kick my door, okay? You kick my door, listen, sit down.
No.
Don't come at me like that.
you.
Listen to me real good.
He has hurt me.
Shut up. You kick my...
Ow.
Kick me. That was real stupid. Real stupid, okay?
He's acting like this, you don't want him. Hey, you fell.
14 shootings over the long weekend in Toronto, including this one in a nightclub. An alarming number prompting the city to send out additional patrols on the street and renewed calls from Toronto's mayor for a ban on handguns in this country, something only the federal government can bring in.
We're observing, obviously, what other countries have done or not done, and we are taking our own Canadian decisions, and we're doing so, obviously, on the eve of a very important democratic decision.
The effects of Washington's official withdrawal from the landmark U.S.-Russia treaty, which banned certain short and intermediate-range missiles, kicked in very quickly. Just one day after the announcement, the newly appointed Pentagon boss said he wanted American missiles somewhere in this part of the world.
It's fair to say, though, that we would like to deploy capabilities sooner rather than later. I would prefer months. I just don't have the latest state of play and timelines.
Russia realized something was cooking, and on Monday, President Putin had this to say.
If we receive verified information that the US has finished developing and started producing these systems, Russia will be forced to begin its own full-scale development of similar missiles.
In the build-up to this, Moscow kept saying that the collapse of the treaty would be dangerous, that it was all part of a bigger plan by Washington, that the Americans accused the Russian military of violations only to use them as a pretext for their own military expansion. Now that Uncle Sam's hands are untied. There you have it. The U.S. government jumped straight into action, and the Kremlin warning was quick to follow. If you started, we'll have to do it too. Given that NATO is on Russia's doorstep, we'll be obliged to make sure we are protected. That was the gist of what Vladimir Putin was saying. But as we've shown, Washington is beginning with somewhere in between Beijing and Canberra.
Let America declare the war. Let them assemble all their armaments there in South China Sea. Fire the first shot, and I'll be glad to do the next.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom.
Britain has joined the United States in a maritime security mission in the Persian Gulf to protect merchant vessels traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. This is the most significant non-Brexit foreign policy move of the new British government and goes against Britain's recent call for a European-led naval mission. London, however, says its policy on Iran has not changed. The U.S. Defense Department has welcomed the decision, saying it looks forward to working with others who share the common goal of ensuring the free flow of commerce. Last month, Iran seized a British-flagged tanker in the Persian Gulf over alleged marine violations. The move came 2 weeks after Britain seized an Iranian oil tanker near Gibraltar, accusing it of violating EU sanctions by delivering oil to Syria.
One of the last bits of an ancient plate that covers this planet is dying, and this is the Juan de Fuca plate off the coast of Oregon. This is a very interesting spot. This spot I figure as being very key to what is happening over here on the West Coast, because it is just a small tiny bit of plate that is diving underneath the North American plate, and now they're saying they have discovered what they thought was a hole is now a crack that is 93 miles long. And that when this southern limb decides to completely tear off, it could generate some big quakes with some tsunami waves that would affect the East Coast big time. This could also trigger some events with the Cascadia. Since it's tied all into it here, this area has been a spot I have watched for a long time because I've always felt like this is just the perfect area to generate just this. Now we're seeing more proof and more evidence of that. And that if this southern piece does rip off at any time, they're saying it indeed will generate some big quakes that are going to be felt. Now, they go over a lot of this here in different ways, different video clips showing the motion of it, the history, some of the volcanic activity along the Ring of Fire there in Oregon and California, and how it's all connected. Even the sediment, the color of the magma that's coming up, they connect to certain plates and certain things that have dove underneath these regions in the past. And this is a motion that has been underway for some time here. This plate trying to dive underneath of it. Now they're saying the southern limb down by Eureka is tearing away. And that's interesting because often on the earthquake map off the coast of Eureka out there, we see small quakes all the time, tinging. So, for what it's worth, I wanted to put this additional information out there connected to the Juan de Fuca plate because it ties into everything out there that could lead to a big one happening or a tsunami event off the coast.
All these are the beginning of sorrows.